Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
When we think about the future of the economy of the United States, if we don't have more computer science majors, we're in big trouble. And if half of our population, the female half, is not going to major in computer science, we're in big trouble. If we don't have women participating in creating the solutions to technical problems, I can promise you that the technical solutions will not be as good.
We need to have diverse teams to create the world's greatest innovations. We need to build the talent pipeline, and to do that requires us to excite young women in middle school and high school to the future of computer science.
It's really important to have a strong foundation at an earlier age with computer science related tools like simple programming or even things disguised as games.
Giving them experiences to hands-on play with technology and computer science, to give them passion.
It's that initial spark that really keeps them engaged in the field, inspiring them to pursue careers in science technology.
Another key ingredient to help keep girls in the computer science track is to help them be aware of opportunities with great organizations like the Anita Borg Institute and the National Center for Women in Technology.
NCWIT does a lot of work in Washington, D.C. because we're working very hard to make sure that policymakers understand the importance of girls and women's participation in computing. We're mobilizing all kinds of ways. In 20 years, we're going to see what women invent when they invent technology. Because right now, we really don't know what women would invent if they were at the technical design table.
We have an executive team that's really ready to take the Anita Borg Institute to the next level. Our signature program is the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing. This year we have 3,600 people descending on Baltimore, Maryland. 1,500 of these are students. And for them, it's often the first time they've come to a conference. It can be life-changing.
Grace Hopper is the most exciting event ever, pretty much, because being in a computer science department that's so vibrant as the one at Brown's is great, but there just aren't enough women.
In my 125 lecture, there's 4 girls, and you're here, and this all the girls who have that feeling in one place.
It's just so inspiring to see how many girls have the same interests as me.
You walk around knowing that every single girl here has something amazing that they've done.
It's really amazing how many technologies are out there and how many women from all nationalities are in these fields.
I've been very fortunate to have a lot of mentors throughout my career, and it's those mentors who have helped shape me, and I hope with that knowledge, I can be a good mentor to other women that I work with on a daily basis.
Right now at Microsoft Research, I'm working with Rain Johnson. I think it's really important that women early in their careers, just entering computer science in college or even in high school, have a female mentor. I get to see how someone very similar to me, someone with the same energy, with the same passions, how they live their life. And it lets me know what my future could be like. And having Rain as a mentor lets me see that I can be successful exactly as the person I am. I've gone to Haiti twice now through an organization that I partner with, that's STARS Alliance. We were able to start teaching introductory computer science and programming skills to a group of young women who served as mentors in 3 of the schools in rural northern Haiti. You can bring in food and solutions that will last a short term, or you can bring in solutions that enable the people to really take control of their destiny.
One of the things that was really important when I met Katie is her passion to make a difference in the world. We know one reason that we're losing a lot of young women in computer science is the lack of awareness that computer science really does change the world. Young women today want to make an impact, and that's why we also partner with NetHope.
NetHope Women's Tech Connect is a global community of practice and a professional online mentoring program to support women in developing world to get into technology. We put them through a training in technology that's relevant for their particular community, for their particular country, and then place them in internships in nonprofits in those local areas so that they can get actual real world experience. And 90% of the time, those internships turn into jobs.
Computer science is a very creative field. It's a field where you do a lot of problem solving and collaboration. And it's a field that is changing the world. It's helping make innovations in healthcare, in the environment, all around us.
Young women need to know that computer science is about people, whether that person is your end user of a product or someone who you're teaching or someone who you're inspiring to really pick up the reins and become the next great technologist. Computer science is about people, not the technology.
We will bridge the gap.
Bridge the gap.
Bridge the gap.
To future innovation together.
To future innovation together.
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 Through diversity.
Through diversity.
Through diversity and creativity.
So my name is Rain Johnson, and I'm the lead for Microsoft Research on how we grow more women and underrepresented groups in computing. And I'd like to introduce Katie Doran, who should be right beside me, and Anya Agarwal. Is Anya there? All right, perfect. These three ladies, and in addition, who's not here right now, Jen Meyer, have put in a lot of time and energy and work to put today together for all of you. So I hope you enjoy. We're going to spend just a little bit of time explaining what is Microsoft Research doing, and also Microsoft as a corporation in trying to grow more women computer scientists, and why do we care. And then we're going to have an exciting show of a new documentary that has come out earlier this year that's been led by Anya, and she'll talk more about that. And then we have two really exciting panels where you'll hear from young interns who are doing amazing work to really inspire the next generation and get more women to be computer scientists. And then some senior leader women here at Microsoft who are doing amazing work that hopefully will inspire every woman in this room to continue with computer science and really helping us solve some of these world great challenges. Next slide. So we talked about it in the video, and everybody in this room probably knows that, by 2018, there'll be 1.4 million tech jobs open. Right now, there's several million that are open that we just can't fill. And what's exciting is young women are 52% of our college graduates. So they're already there and they're already excited, but somehow we're missing the boat because less than 18% of them will graduate with a computer science degree. And we know that young women want to change the world. We know that young women want to make impact. We know that they want to do exciting jobs. And for a majority of the people who are in the room who are Microsoft employees, we know that technology is the place where that excitement is and where that impact is. And so inside of Microsoft Research, we're really trying to innovate for the next 10 years. It's not only the future of the company, but really trying to push the envelope in computer science. And where do we need to be 10 years from now? And what new dimensions need to be invented for us to really solve some of the world's greatest problems? And to do that, we know we need to have diverse teams. And unfortunately today, our teams aren't diverse enough. And so with that, we want to make sure that we're doing the right things so that we can anticipate and respond to the needs of this changing world. We want to be aware of the best state-of-the-art research that's happening in universities all over the world and that they're collaborating and working with us. And last, we really want to work with more women and get them excited and have them working with us. Next slide. So when we do that, what we really think about is three major areas that we can make a difference in. And so that first area is state-of-the-art research. There are top areas like machine learning, human interactions that are really making a difference in the future. And we want to work with the top women researchers today because one of the challenges our top women researchers have is not only are they the best researcher there is, but typically they're probably the one, maybe two of the only women in their department. So whenever there are interviews, whenever there are speaking engagements, whenever there's an important person coming to a university, they have additional duties that they need to take on. And a lot of the times they're the best kept secret, and not everybody knows of their amazing research and their amazing work. So at Microsoft Research, we want to sponsor research collaborations with those top institutions and those rising stars and current stars in research. The second thing that we really want to do is focus on tools that are going to excite the daughters that are in the room today. Inside of Microsoft Research, we have a lot of researchers who make amazing software that really help you learn computer science without you even knowing you're learning computer science. They're games, they're rapid prototyping, they're puzzles, and they teach you the core principles so you can be a great computer scientist and hopefully excite you to want to become one of us. And then the last part is really that inspiration. What are those key events? What are those key organizations? What are the scholarships and awards we're sponsoring so that we help all the young daughters in the room and then all the women that will be watching this video online to really want to pursue this field? You know, today you saw in the previous statistics, there's a very small amount of women getting PhDs. And to really develop all of this great technology and these future developments, we need many more PhDs. And our hope is by working at the middle school, high school, and university levels, we'll excite more and more women to get those PhDs and hopefully come work for Microsoft Research. So I just want to take a little bit of time to share one project in each one of those three areas. And then there's plenty of information on the flyers that you have in your seats that you can read more. But I talked about research collaborations and working with the top women researchers. One research that we're really excited to be doing is with Constance Steinhell. She's one of the top gaming and education researchers in the world. She is at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and together her and I and her team are working on creating Envision You. It is an online community for girls 10 years old till 18, where we're really trying to get computer science core principles through game design and teach you and have you build an online community, since not all middle schools and high schools in the world are teaching computer science. We want students to be able to work with other women around the world. They'll have opportunities for challenges to try real technologies and build mobile applications and serious games, but at the same time learn, have peers, and then also technical women mentors to help them with their skills. And then we're working very closely with the National Center for Women in Technology's Academic Alliance, which are the top computer science organizations around the world, to then say, if you go through all of this curriculum and you do these challenges, we want you to come to our university. And so we're really excited to pilot this year, and then hopefully this time next year, many of you in the room can join our CSU Envision You University. The next area I'd love to share with you is the tools. We know that tools are really important. Next slide. And there are several tools that our researchers have created, and these are all available on our Microsoft Research website. The one I'd love to highlight is .NET Gadgeteer. So what's exciting about .NET Gadgeteer is it's a rapid prototyping technology. And so we're able to build together media players, digital cameras, and look at industrial design, hardware, and software programming. And so they're a fun and easy environment to work in. You could think of it as Lego robotics on steroids. And we've seen a lot of girls get really excited about the opportunity because it mixes in the design with also the engineering. The last area I want to share with you is, next slide, what our women across Microsoft Research are doing to really inspire the next generation of girls. And so we're very involved in the Grace Hopper, which you saw earlier on the video, which is the largest women in technology conference in the world, where it's a combination of university women and professional women, and Microsoft is the largest technology company involved in Grace Hopper. We bring more than 100 Microsoft women to participate in this event. We also have on our research website great profiles of amazing researchers and their stories and the research that they're doing that you can watch, and you can learn about the research and learn about the women and also the different jobs and opportunities that you can have by being a computer scientist. Because many times students think that either you're a developer or a tester, but you don't realize that you could be a program manager, a product manager, a producer. There are so many different roles that people don't talk about that will be really, really interesting and exciting for you. And then the last area is really we do lots of national campaigns to excite women. And one of them is called Sit With Me, with bringing women to the table and making sure that women know what important contributor they are. And so on our site, there are some great videos and also great stories of different women and leaders across Microsoft who are standing up and saying we need to excite more girls into computer science. The next slide, I'm not going to talk a lot about, but these are some of the key organizations that we work with in Microsoft Research and across the company to really inspire and work with young women to help them in computer science. Next slide. One of the things that I think is really important, because not enough do we tell all Microsoft employees all the things that we do, so that you know how we're really trying to make a difference globally. Our U.S. citizenship and government affairs organizations also do a lot in growing women in computing. And if you're not aware of the Youth Spark program, we launched this last year, and it aims to empower 300 million young people all over the world in the next 3 years, where Dream Spark and all of our developer tools are free. There are a bunch of tools online. There are classes with IT Academy. There's opportunities in Imagine Cup. And then there's a great program called TEALS, where Microsoft employees are going into high school classrooms and teaching computer science and AP computer science to really help bridge the gap between the lack of resources that are happening in our high schools. And then when we think about a policy front, there's great work that we're really doing to drive a national STEM fund. And so we have a coalition of lots of different businesses and education groups that Microsoft is working really hard with, where we're working with the reform of our nation's immigration system to really get more funds for STEM education so we can train teachers, recruit, and also get more women and minorities into STEM education. That work also falls into each one of our states. And so the team's working really hard to get computer science as a math or science graduation credit. So if you take computer science, you can get your graduation credits. Right now we have 13 states plus DC that have agreed to this, and the team's working really hard to make it happen. The next group inside of Microsoft that's doing more to grow women in computing is our Global Diversity and Inclusion team. Next slide. And in Global Diversity and Inclusion, they focus in two major areas. One, I'm sure a lot of the people in the room know about DigiGirls. Raise your hand if you have participated or know about DigiGirls. Wow, there's not enough people. So DigiGirls is a program that started in 2000 by Microsoft to really provide free technology education and interactive experiences with over 13,000 young women around the world. Sometimes it's a camp that's multiple days. Sometimes it's a one-day experience. And it's really to excite young girls, all the women in the room, to want to be computer scientists and see the opportunities. In addition to that, Microsoft has what are called employee resource groups, employee resource groups and employee networks. And in those resource groups and networks, we have over 47 different organizations focused on technical women. And how do we help make them be successful, have an amazing experience here at Microsoft, and advance your careers? And so each one of these organizations do lots of events and participate in outreaching to the community. So with this, I now have the great pleasure, next slide, of introducing Anya. And so Anya is a PM intern in the Windows UEX team this summer. And she's also a rising senior at Stanford University. She's studying human-computer interaction. And last year, she saw the hole and the need for really growing and inspiring more girls to computer science and started She++. And so I'm not going to take all of the spotlight. I'll let Anya talk about her organization, the work she's done, but she's been featured and interviewed on TechCrunch, Bloomberg News, Forbes, Time Magazine, CNN, and to just be a young college student and have already made this big a significant impact. We're excited to have her at Microsoft, and we hope that she comes back as a full-time employee. So with that, I'll hand it over to Anya.
Thank you, Rain. I don't know if this is working. I don't think I need a mic. I'm pretty loud, but thank you. I'm so honored to be in the pleasure of Rain's robot.
You need to use your mic because it's being recorded.
Oh, okay. Let me try to figure this out.
Should be just a toggle.
Hello? Can you hear me? Does this work?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for coming here today. I really, really appreciate having this group of young girls, parents, and Microsoft's employees. It just shows the importance of this issue. I am the co-founder of an organization called She++, and Rain told you a little bit about it. I started last year actually a year and a half ago when I was a sophomore at Stanford. So today I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take a little bit of time to tell you my story and share a little bit about what we've been doing at She++. And then after that, we'll show a documentary that we created and have been able to spread worldwide in this past, I think it's only been about 4 months. So I entered Stanford as a pre-vet. I was going to help take over the world by kind of entering this health field, and I was going to help save animals and humans worldwide. And I was really actively involved in nonprofits, and I really just wanted to make a change in the world. But I came to Stanford, obviously being in the heart of Silicon Valley. I grew up in New Jersey, where it's the heart of all professionals, and I realized that perhaps the nonprofit world wasn't as fast-paced and exciting as I wanted it to be. And I started taking my bio and chem classes, and I felt, while I was at the heart of Silicon Valley, there's so many exciting things going on. Why don't I just couldn't stand being in my bio classes, which was like all my friends were taking across the nation. And so I actually read an article on Huffington Post about women in tech. And there was this person, someone who you might know, Marissa Mayer, who had talked about her shift from being a pre-med at Stanford, transferring to a major called symbolic systems, which is human-computer interaction. And so I said, hey, why don't I do that? So at the beginning of my sophomore year, I took my first computer science class, and I really started to enjoy it. I liked the ability to not only practice creativity and logic, but problem solve. And I didn't find that I was able to do that in any of my other classes, whether they be humanity classes or the bio and chem pre-med classes. And not only was I able to problem solve, but I was able to be creative with it. So someone who is striving to make change in the world, I can think about ways that I can actually impact developing countries, and I can actually impact girls and women, both issues that I care about very, very deeply, with the innovation of technology. And so I started to have some conversations with friends about why there wasn't more of a conversation on Stanford's campus of the greater implications of technology and incorporating your own interests. So someone who is really interested in fashion, or someone who's really interested in social change, or someone who's really interested in health, how they can all bring that in with their technology, with their knowledge of technology. And that led into a greater conversation of why there are so few women in our computer science classes. And so we realized, well, no one else was going to do something about this, so why don't we do something about this? Why don't we bring in the people who we look up to and we want to have conversations with on our campus? So that, in about 3 months, we put together a conference in April 2012, And that was our kickoff of She++. Little did we know, though, that was going to expand to a bigger campaign and community. And I must say that wasn't propelled by me. It was propelled by the girls and the women in attendance of that event. So that led to a lot of greater initiatives in terms of the coming year. And we decided that we had a great environment and a great conversation going on in the Bay Area, but there were so many people across the world that really wanted to be part of this. So many people who wanted to see that same spirit. So we had video recordings and we said, okay, well, we can either put together all this content on YouTube, or we can cut it up, or we can make a documentary. So naturally, having no filmmaking background whatsoever, we decided to go with the documentary. So that summer, we decided to launch the documentary, or launch the creation of the documentary, and we had some really exciting people in that, and it's about 12 minutes, you'll see. It was finally released in April 2013, and we just released it online, and so in about 3 weeks, we've had over 60,000 hits. It's been translated into 12 languages, and it's going to be it's in the process of being translated into 2 more, and it's been screened officially in over 200 places worldwide. So that's very, very exciting because we're building a community of women who are using these resources that we're creating to create communities wherever they are in the world. And that's really the crux of what we're doing. So we decided to run the conference again to try to pull more people in, and we really value that in-person communication, that ability to identify with the role models you look up to. And then we also find that's really valuable for young girls, people like you, to look at people who are 5 years down the line saying, what are they doing in 5 years? What are, not all the, Julie Larson Greens or the Sheryl Sandbergs who are like 20 years down in their career, 30 years down in their career, but what are people doing 5 years down their career? What can I be? And so something that we found was important was putting together a connector program, allowing high school girls just to have informal chats with college girls to ask, what's it like to be a computer science major? What does your day-to-day look like? And so we built we're piloting a connector program this past year, and we launched it in May and have had 60 conversations already, and we have 30 college mentors from across the nation at different universities. So that's a little bit of a recap of where we're at right now. We have a very exciting community, and we have some really exciting things coming ahead. So moving forward, we're going to build out that connector mentorship program a lot more, really, really capitalizing on the fact that high school girls just want some college girls to be friends with and ask them questions and really easily access that. So we're providing that access. The second thing that we're doing is we know that there are really good people in here who know and love, or know that they love computer science, and they're in their high schools and their colleges, and we know that you guys are the future change agents of this community, and you guys are going to be the future leaders in the Women in Tech movement. So we're building out a She++ Fellows program this year, where we provide all the resources for high school girls or college girls to really make change in their communities, whether it be talking to their principals so that they can instate an AP computer science program, or bringing in speakers to their college or high school, or creating a club at their college. And at the end of that, we're having a competition, and we're going to fly all the winners out to the Valley for a Women in Tech Summit. So we'll be inviting industry professionals, the college students, high school girls, all to have a roundtable towards the end of the year. So that's the in-person summit. And then lastly, we found that video content is very, very powerful. So these quick 5-second, 10-second answers about like, what is computer science? What do you do? What can you do with computer science? What is Java? What's this? What's that? Very basic questions. We're recording industry professionals answering those questions, and we're creating a database online so anyone and everyone in the world can have these basic questions answered. So that's looking forward a little bit. I just wanted to personally thank you for all being here today and supporting this movement, and I'm really inspired to hear your stories and excited to hear your stories after the panel and the event today. So thank you very much.
women don't like the image of computer science. Women don't like feeling like, they're a woman in computer science.
Nationally, we've seen the rates of women's participation fall, and that's very scary.
In school at Stanford, they do a reasonable job, but I was still the only girl in a couple of my classes. We're not talking classes of 20, we're talking classes of 120.
Everybody knows who those women are, which has got to be way too much pressure on them.
All the prejudices and the implicit notions that if you're a girl, you're going to do less well.
And I think a lot of women, myself included, come to computer science afraid of it.
It was just very intimidating to be around these people who could just hack out code really fast, and I was just struggling to write my first, Hello World program.
So I think a big thing that deters a lot of girls and a lot of women from pursuing CS is the image that the computer scientist is this, bad hygiene person who is, this pocket calculator.
Who are very antisocial.
Maybe just very sedentary and are gonna spend their time coding alone at home.
All the lights turned off, listening to music, drinking some kind of energy drink.
Not a very appealing image for a lot of people.
There's no reason it has to be that way. You do not need to go and conform to the stereotype.
So Ina and I never really intended to be where we are today. We didn't aspire to be nerds. I came to Stanford 2 years ago as a psychology major.
And I entered Stanford as a pre-vet. I was going to be a human biology major. And then we decided to take our first computer science class. And our fates were almost decided for us from there.
We were both kind of pushed to our majors by role models, by women who we felt that we could be in 5, 10, 15 years.
We looked around our computer science classes and we sometimes couldn't really see as many of those role models as there should have been.
And it was important to me to give a lot of girls the opportunity to kind of fall in love with what they did the way I had.
I do a lot of things that would maybe not be considered what a computer scientist would do. For instance, I'm in a sorority at Stanford and I love it.
I was interested in psychology, I like to write.
I'm very extroverted and my greatest hobby is travel.
I love getting manicures, I love watching Gossip Girl, don't judge me.
This is a field that everybody can be in, and that everything that you do in computer science makes you better at your other interests, and that your other interests also make you a better computer scientist.
My name is Kimber Lockhart, and I work at a company called Box. There I'm the director of engineering responsible for the web application development team. I'm trying to hire great engineers right now, and I would hire twice as fast if I could find them.
And at this rate, literally the growth of the U.S. tech industry is going to be throttled by the fact that U.S. universities and even the world's universities are not producing enough software engineers.
In the West, we cut our scientific population in half because we don't really encourage women. We need everyone we can get in this field. If Stanford graduated all of its students in computer science, the Valley would hire them all.
I think this is actually really a Rosie the Riveter moment, and that is that women are the great untapped bench. If you just look at the numbers, and they're super simple, let's say that women are 60% of undergraduates, they're 20% of computer science majors. Imagine a hypothetical computer science department with 100 students each year. At 20%, women are 20 of those, men are 80 of those. If we simply took women to their appropriate proportion of undergraduates, which is 60%, for every 40 men, there would be 60 women. For those 80 men, there would be 120 women. That would be 200 students, not 100. So if women were just represented proportionally, we would double the number of software engineers this nation is making every year, and that would be timely because the number of jobs is tripling.
My name is Tracy Chow, and I am a software engineer at Pinterest.
My name is Chopin Albert, and I work at Microsoft.
I'm Jocelyn Goldfein, and I'm a director of engineering at Facebook.
We're building a product for people to share the things that will inspire them and hopefully get them out and doing things.
I work on social search, which is making search more social by incorporating information from your social networks.
I run teams of software engineers who make features for the Facebook.com site.
I'm Privahini Bradu. I am the CEO and co-founder of a green mining company called Blue Oak Resources. The goal of Blue Oak is to extract high-value precious metals from end-of-life electronics, so your cell phones, your computers.
My name is Sandy Jen. I was the CTO and co-founder of a company called Meebo. We got acquired at Google last year, and I currently work as a software engineer at Google. People's lives revolve around tech, even if they don't even know it.
I would, maybe go on Facebook, I browse around the internet. It was just like computer science.
Over time, I discovered the prereq class to almost everything I wanted to do was our introductory computer science class.
I took a CS class the spring of my sophomore year.
And the part of me that loved to do logic puzzles and crossword puzzles just thrived on programming.
It keeps me intellectually stimulated every day, and I feel like I'm learning things on a day-to-day basis.
The most important things in computer science is logic and algorithmic thinking. And I think when you have that mindset, that can be applied to a stream of different disciplines, from science to engineering to business.
The majority of jobs today have a technology component. And so if you want to equip yourself to do almost anything, you need to add computer science to that very basic part of your toolkit.
With computing, just a little bit of programming knowledge suddenly unlocks all of these doors.
You can go into any industry. You can go into fashion, you can go into science, you can go into math.
And the fun part about computing is it's just such a broad discipline, because what we define as computer science is essentially finding problems that are worth solving and then solving them using computing.
I was terrified to take the introductory computer science class.
At least known by some as a weeder class, so it was a little bit more difficult.
The expectation was, if you're studying computer science, you must have used this before.
And there were some guys in the class who had just been programming all their lives, and I had not even touched a computer until 1998.
I thought I was failing that class the entire way through.
I spent a lot of time thinking that I just wasn't qualified for this. I hadn't been coding since I was 12, and my classmates, several of them had.
There's some very good statistics, some done here at Stanford, that show that when women don't succeed at first, they blame themselves, and men blame the course or the test. So that a woman who gets a B+ thinks she's doing horribly, and a man who gets a B+ thinks they're doing fine.
If there's something you want to try that you're excited about but you're afraid of, how do you get over that? I tell a lot of people, men and women, to fake it till you make it. If you project self-confidence, the people around you will believe in you. And someday you will look around and realize you're not faking it anymore. That game face of confidence is how you actually feel.
You don't have to be the most genius person in the world to even get started. I think just being able to be okay and persevere and say, I'm learning something.
Like just Google what you want to do or Google what you might want to think about doing. And then something will come up and that'll lead to something else and that'll lead to something else.
Don't let fear get in the way of what you can do, because you could change the world if you want to.
I think if you're in high school, just get going and get going with something small and stair-step your way into it. Achieve something, build something useful, build yourself a small software program, or take an iPhone class and build a small application. Just get going and see it through.
So we decided to come up with an Android app, and Study Cafe is basically a virtual world crossed with studying via flashcards and multiple choice questions.
So in addition to making the app, we also had to pitch it to a panel of judges.
I think that makes computer science really appealing, because you do have to talk to people and you do have to be convincing as well. I think that's really cool.
I'm usually a shy person, but when I got up to pitch, I actually really liked it.
As high schoolers, our app was designed to help people with studying for AP Sciences. If it was a non-high schooler who had designed this app, would they have been able to think of that problem? It's the same for women. We have our own personal issues which are different from men, and we need women computer scientists who can understand that issue and be able to code it and make it a reality.
good at math, if you're good at science, take a look. Consider computer science.
It's daunting, it's hard, but I would encourage you to take a risk, to give it a shot.
Because honestly, you can start at any age. You can start at any time.
It's a very creative field, and it enables you to do so many different things.
And I think making all the choices that make you happy every day is probably the thing that'll get you closest to eventually recognizing your full potential.
They can affect the world very positively. They can build products that are used by millions of people.
And it's actually really dramatically changing the way the world functions.
You can have an idea or a concept, and you yourself can build it and make it a reality.
Like, it really is about making something that you're proud of and making something that, you know, you wanted to make and that was hard to make and that you did make. And I think that was kind of my proudest moment, because that was the first time I can really look back and be like, you know, I did that.
So as Katie gets the intern panel started, I'd like to take the time to introduce you to Katie. So Katie came to us last summer as my intern at Microsoft Research, and she was absolutely brilliant and fantastic and helped us launch a lot of our Women in Microsoft Research activities that unfortunately the Xbox IEB team recruited her, and she left graduate school and came to Microsoft. I'm a little sad to have one less PhD researcher, but I am very excited to have her here at Microsoft. And so with that, I'll let Katie take over and have you hear from these inspiring young women.
Thank you, Rain. So as Rain mentioned, I'm Katie Doran, and I have the pleasure of moderating our intern panel today. As a former intern here, as well as several other organizations, I always do internships. They're wonderful, inspiring opportunities, and we here at Microsoft happen to end up with some really phenomenal interns, in case you haven't already picked up on that. So the young ladies with me today, they are going to have the opportunity to introduce themselves, answer some questions. I have some questions prepared, and then we'll open it up to the audience to take your questions. So be thinking of things that you'd like to know, especially given I think we have one high school intern and then two who are still in their undergraduate careers. So some of the younger girls out here today, that's very close. Maybe college is near in your future, high school even nearer, so there might be some really great questions you have in mind. Don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask them. So for my panelists, can you each introduce yourselves and share the story of how you got into computer science and a bit about your current internship? I know everyone takes kind of diverse paths into CS and probably have some really great internships going on this summer, so we'd love to hear about them.
Sure, so I'll begin. You guys know a little bit about how I got excited by computer science and technology, so I'll skip over that part and I'll tell you about my internship this summer. So as you've heard, I'm a program management intern on the Windows UEX team. That's a really exciting space because that's the heart of human-computer interaction, I think, at Microsoft. And I've been working on some exciting projects. So I'll explain a little bit about my project, what I've liked most about it, and the challenges that I've faced. So I'm working on something on text commanding. So basically, when you tap and highlight a word, what is the menu that appears? Typically on a a desktop, you would left click and you'd have that commanding menu appear. But how can that be redefined and reinvented for touch surfaces? So I've been focusing really heavily on micro interactions this summer. And it's been a challenge for me because in a lot of my human-computer interaction classes, I've been thinking about larger scale interaction problems. So how do you, from posture, from ergonomics, but not really as much on a micro interaction scale. I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with developers and to work with designers and to really drive some prototyping, some strong design discussions, and at the culmination of my internship, which is next week, I will be submitting a final spec. And that final spec is going to be taken over into the Windows 8.1 plus one to be hopefully implemented into the next iteration of that. And so I'm really excited to be able to very fruitfully be working with the team because everyone's invested in this being one day implemented.
Hi, is this on? Okay.
Sounds like it.
Okay, perfect. My name is Amy Lin. I'm currently a rising senior at UCLA. And I guess I could just begin by saying how I got into computer science. So actually in high school, my original plan was I was pretty much 90% sure I was going to go into history. And it was really kind of a last minute decision. I wasn't really into science and I wasn't really into computer science, but all I have to really say, it was a complete out of the box decision for me. And then for me, it was when I first took, that really resounded with me, that video about that kind of imposter syndrome and kind of like walking to my first intro class and going like, there's this guy like sitting right in front of me and he's coding this like complex game or something and I'm just trying to get Visual Studio running on my computer. But I think one of the biggest things that impacted me was there was some scattered mentorship programs at my school, and I managed to get a mentor, and she was amazing. It was just great to have another undergraduate student who had already kind of gone through the process. She was into research, kind of be able to talk to me on that kind of level versus like having to approach a professor and go, I don't exactly know what you're talking about at this point. But I got really into mentorship and kind of like retention of engineering majors. So not just computer scientists, but also, for instance, civil engineers or chemical engineers as well. So that's kind of like a brief overview of what I got into. But to move on to kind of what I'm doing this summer, I'm actually a SDE intern, so a development intern in the services engineering team. And what I really loved about this internship is that they kind of incorporated me as like an extra dev on the team. So I didn't have a side project. I was kind of basically doing I was coding right beside every other dev on my team. So it was a little daunting at first because everyone on my team is pretty much a senior dev, so it was kind of like, oh, I'm an intern. But yeah, I was like, here's my title, guys. But it was amazing. I learned a lot. I sat in the same office as a senior dev, and it was a really great dynamic that went on with it. And we actually worked on a smaller scale project, so I got to talk to our PM, and then when I started deving stuff, I also had to consider like certain UI things from the UI perspective, or I got to also think about like the impact of what I was doing and whether or not like I should talk to our PM and kind of discuss like what I was doing exactly with her. And besides that, like my manager was really supportive of me going into like learning more about the agile process, which I really found really fascinating. So I talked to Arlo, who's an amazing agile expert, and he kind of really gave me this opportunity to put on this intern agile immersion day over the summer. So we actually gathered a group of cross-organizational interns, and we kind of like put them in with a host like agile team, and then we kind of like ran through an entire day with them. So it was a really great experience.
Hi everyone, I'm Priya Ganesan. I just graduated from the International Community School in Kirkland, and I'll be a freshman at Stanford in a couple of weeks. As how I got into computer science, both my parents are software engineers, so I kind of had that techie background from the beginning, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My my mom will attest to this, I like changed my mind every week. I think at one point I said I wanted to be the president, and then it was a doctor, and then like it just kept changing. And then in 10th grade, I decided to do a little 2-week intro to Java programming class, which I really, really enjoyed, and I wanted to learn more. But my school doesn't offer any computer science or computing classes at all. So I decided I would take it into my own hands, and I decided to self-study AP Computer Science in my junior year of high school. That was definitely challenging at first, but once I got into it, I really, really enjoyed it, and it kind of inspired me to pursue computer science as a career. So right now, I'm a high school intern working in Microsoft Research on the machine translation team, and I am on a team with 2 other high school interns, and we're working on a Windows 8 app that we built from scratch. And what it does is it uses the Bing Translator API to translate song lyrics into different languages, and there are a lot of other cool features that we built associated with it, like you can upload your own songs, you can auto-tune yourself singing, you can record yourself, you can auto-tune the little text-to-speech feature, which is really entertaining to listen to. So that was a really fun and a great learning experience for me, because I learned the whole process from start to finish of building an app in all aspects, like the UI, the back-end coding, how to integrate different APIs like web APIs, how to work with Azure. So that was a lot of fun. And another little side project that we got to do in the last 2 weeks of our internship was machine learning, just to get an introduction since we were on the machine translation team. We got a data file with a bunch of movies and keywords associated with the movies and the genre for the movie, and our goal was to guess the genre of different movies based on keywords using all the training data that we had. So we were testing different algorithms and seeing which ones were most accurate, and that was a lot of fun.
All awesome interns and internship projects, very cool. So one of the things that is fairly common is looking back on it, or just moving into computer science. You'll have experiences, maybe even completely unrelated to computer science, or things you didn't think of as computer science that you encountered earlier in life, like during childhood or middle school or early in high school, that now serve you really well, that you're into computer science as your field. Do you have any experiences or hobbies or interests from childhood or early in school that kind of are fantastic assets now that you're in computer science?
I guess I'll start. So one thing that I did that I think has been really useful for me is that in 3rd grade I joined my school's math team, and I was really, really horrible at math at the beginning. My math coach actually told me I was the worst member on the team, which was not good for my self-confidence. But through like a lot of hard practice and hard work, I was able to luckily get better and compete in a lot of like regional and state and national math competitions, and that's helped me because that math foundation has been really useful in terms of improving my confidence and also helping me understand all the different concepts in computer science better. And the cool thing about it is that a lot of my peers who are in math club also are now transitioning into computer science as well, so it's nice to have other people my age who have the same background. Other than that, I think one thing that's kind of different, but is also useful, is that my school focuses a lot on the humanities. So we have like a lot of art, history, English, and one thing is we have every year a focus week, which is where we spend 1 week doing something really not school related, but that's still educational. And so through that, I was able to travel a lot to places like Greece and Costa Rica and see just like different cultures in life. And I think that's also an important asset, I think, for someone who's going to computer science, is to have like that well-rounded education and like knowledge of different things that are going on, because now I can see issues that other people who may not have like traveled and had the same experiences as me may not have seen, and I can work towards improving them now that I have computer science in my skill set.
I have 2 things. The first is the fact that I was I'm a huge social networker, so I was on MySpace really young, and MySpace had the opportunity where you could kind of like code your own backgrounds, and you could have little like snowflakes coming down from your profile. And actually, quite honestly, at the time, I didn't even know that I was coding. I didn't even associate my past coding experience with the computer programming that I do now until about like 2 months ago. All I was doing at the time was looking up ways online and lines online that I had to manipulate to make my computer screen do what I wanted it to do. So just that ability and that knowledge to just really take hold of whatever you want to see happen. And so that experience really, really at least made me feel a lot more comfortable moving forward, saying that, hey, even as a young girl, I could have done this. Like, as a young girl, I did do this, and now I think there's a way to move forward. The second thing I think was really, really valuable for me was the ability to collaborate, the ability to empathize with people, to hear people out, and collectively drive people in a certain direction. And I think that can be gained from any experience, from any domain in high school or in middle school. The ability to bring people together and to really influence them on a certain decision that needs to be made was probably one of the most powerful things I learned as a young person. Specifically through my internship at Microsoft, I realized how valuable that is when you're trying to rapidly decide upon features and rapidly decide upon the way that you're going to be implementing a certain type of feature, and you have to convince your entire team of people who have years and years of experience under their belt. That's probably one of the most valuable skills I think I've actually gained as a younger person, because a lot of the hard programming and the hard kind of just background of what it's like to understand computers, I get through my classes. But a lot of these soft skills that really help you be successful in that space, I gained through experience as a young girl.
I would say it's actually something I learned when I just started college, because in high school I was kind of the person who kind of sat in my own corner and I didn't want to work with anyone. But it was kind of, I would say one thing I do kind of wish I did that I started in college was to really get involved with clubs, or to really get involved with organizations, or it really helps you meet people. It doesn't have to be just computer scientists, but all as like engineers or people outside of engineering who are just really intense about whatever area you're really interested in too. And it really kind of helps you build connections. And I remember, so during my second year, at the very end of my second year, I actually got to present, because we do a lot of company sponsorship. So we actually got to present in front of a company. So it was kind of, at least for my experiences, it kind of gives you the opportunity to really go beyond what you're doing and do a lot, like gain a lot of those skills as you go along. And within a club, you have a little bit more leeway than when you're working with practicing those skills. So I've messed up a lot of workshops before. I've messed up a lot of talks, but it's kind of going through that learning process and saying, like, I messed up here, but next time I can go like a bit further. And usually if you're in like a really great club, or you know those people around and you have that great network, they can give you a lot of great feedback, and you can kind of build from that.
I actually want to add something to that. It'll be quick, I promise. But I want to add that as a young girl, I'm still a young girl, but as a younger girl, I definitely pushed myself out of my comfort zone a lot. And I think as you're entering a tech world, or as you're entering your classes where you are the minority, it's important to have that thick skin. And so pushing yourself, I had an older brother who loved to play video games. I always had guys around in my house. And so I sometimes would sit down and be like, let me play that video game. Let me do what you're doing. And they'd be like, no, you're not good at it. And like subtle things like that, to be able to just develop your tough skin, saying even if someone says you can't do it, that you can try to do it, and being able to push yourself. In retrospect, I think that was really good.
Yeah, actually too. Sorry, one more last thing to add to that. Yeah, so a lot of the positions I took were external positions, so a lot of kind of reaching out to people, and I honestly had no experience, and I was pretty bad at it at first. So I would say a lot of positions like really try to maybe take positions that you haven't had any experience in, that sort of like those sort of soft skills, and then it really helps you build it up.
Yeah, you're there to learn.
Yeah.
So one of the things that tends to happen at events like this is you get some people who are really, really passionate about computer science because they've been in it for a while and they love it. They're more comfortable with their skills, and it sounds like their whole lives revolved around computer science. So if you're out there and your life doesn't revolve around computer science, you might be like, whoa, no, I like all of these other things, and I just can't imagine 100% of my time being dedicated to CS. So it would be great to hear what activities and interests you have, hobbies outside of computer science. And if there is some way that it feeds into your education and the work that you're doing, it'd be great to know those connections as well.
Okay. Well, I can start for this one. Well, so I really love kind of pushing like programs and helping people out and building connections. So when I first started, I talked about the mentor I got. So one of the things at our school is that we have a bunch of really great engineering clubs, and everything's kind of, all the programs are kind of like spread out, so you have to like hunt them down and say like, oh, I want to join your club. But so one thing we started that I got involved with was kind of we conglomerated all those clubs together, and we had every entering freshman, engineering freshman and transfer student got their own mentor of the same major, and they got access to the database of mentors, and we connected all those clubs together, and we connected a lot of other organizations together. So something that I love to do, which is probably not, it's kind of like a bit of a hobby of mine, I guess, is really kind of building those club connections and really kind of organizing those events. So that kind of like pumps me up, actually. So I really love doing that.
So one thing that I've been doing for the last several years, since 9th grade, so 4 years now, is I helped start a TEDx conference. For those of you who know what TED is, it's basically an annual conference in Long Beach, California, which brings together a lot of great thinkers to like share their ideas and everything. And so they have independently organized conferences that anyone can start. So a friend of mine actually got the opportunity to speak there at the TED conference, and she came back and she was like, oh, you know, it was a really amazing conference, but there isn't anything like that for students. So we came up with the idea to start TEDx Redmond, which is held annually in the Microsoft Conference Center, and it's all like for youth by youth. So we have like an organizing team, which is all made up of students, and all of the speakers that we bring in are like students who have accomplished really amazing things and just want to share their stories, and most of our attendees are students as well. So that's something that I've really enjoyed doing for the last several years, is inspiring younger students to follow their passions and try to make a difference in their communities. And another thing I would say that I'm really passionate about is community service, especially in regards to education in third world countries. So I've been a really active member of a local youth group called Junior Asha, which fundraises for speech and hearing impaired orphans in India to help them get an education. And then another thing that I did too was I did a service trip to Rwanda right before my junior year, and we taught English and helped empower the girls there to continue with their education. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm hoping that with computer science I'll be able to make a difference in either healthcare or education in third world countries.
Yeah, so dovetailing off of that, I'm so passionate about community service. I thought I was going to be in the nonprofit world when I entered Stanford. I thought that that's why I was training to be a vet, so that I could work in animal shelters my entire life, quite honestly. And I told you a little bit about the fact that I really do believe that computer science and knowledge of technology can help influence that space. So I volunteer regularly. I think it's really important. I volunteer at animal shelters. I really like puppies. They're kind of my lifeblood. Secondly, I like to be artistic. I like to really experience that side of life. I'm on a dance team at school, and so I'm actively involved with that. I'm actively involved with my cultural community groups. I really relate to my Indian identity. I grew up in a very Indian town, and so I like to be active in those spaces. So specifically, artistically and community service-wise, I definitely I'm able to find the time to do that because I think that it just enhances me as a person and me as someone who can be happy in my everyday life decisions, and it can make me happy coming into work and really having conversations with people. At the end of the day, yes, you're working, yes, you're still there, you're behind your computer, but you're interacting with people, and so being able to pursue my interests is on the top of my priority list. The way that I hope it'll be incorporated in the future is, I mean, already I've spoken to so many foundations and nonprofits. Right now, I'm in communication with some nonprofits in Africa, trying to advise them on innovation and technology development in their spaces, trying to advise them on how we can build innovative proposals to apply for school award grants or whatever it might be. And so having that knowledge in my toolkit can allow me to really expand upon the possibilities and bring that to the spaces in which I'm really, really passionate.
We have some rock star interns this summer doing awesome stuff, even in their downtime. I feel lazy. So on to this is my last question before I open it up to the audience, and it's also my unhappy question. It was mentioned in the documentary, in both videos you saw, and some of you have already hinted at it. Computer science can be very intimidating. Imposter syndrome tends to affect a huge number of women in computer science. So what are some of the challenges that you've faced, or specific examples of some of the challenges that have already been mentioned? How have you dealt with them, and what advice would you offer to any of the girls who are here today if they encounter those challenges in the future?
Yeah, so I'll begin with that. I've taken some computer science classes in college, and I've hit so many roadblocks. I can't even tell you. I've hit so many just like mental roadblocks where I'm just like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm done with this. This is not for me. I can't do this, and I need help, but I don't know where to go for help because all of the TAs are guys. And when we go to office hours, when I sign up for my name on the list, the guys get more time because they can be bro-y with the TA, and I sit there and I'm like, I have a question, like, can you answer this? And I don't know how to ask for extra time, and I don't know how to get that extra 10 minutes out so they can help me solve that bug. And so I found that one of my biggest struggles was like going out and asking for help, basically. And then I realized that it's the most valuable thing that you can do. You just have to push yourself, that when you have a question and when you can't solve it and you have nowhere to go and there are some resources in front of you, just really try to tap into that. And you'll realize that, yes, it might take a little bit extra time. And I mean, I talk to my mom about this all the time. She's like, yeah, you might be taking a little bit more time than everyone else, but that's okay. You're still doing it, you're still completing the projects, and you're still learning. And so I've learned that through the possibility of going to office hours and working with the TAs, I've also learned that going to the professor is really valuable because they'll sit down and actually explain things to you. Asking your peers is very valuable because your peers want you to succeed as well, and they benefit from kind of instructing someone else. They learn too. And so finding the peers who are willing to help you and not being afraid to ask them for help has been one of the strongest ways that I've overcome a lot of my roadblocks in my computer science classes. And so just take this nugget with you whenever you're sitting there and you're like, oh gosh, I can't solve this. Oh gosh, what do I do? Or, oh gosh, what are my next steps? Just go and talk to someone and go and ask someone a question, even if it's a broad question. And like soon, by asking all those questions, you'll learn how to target those questions a lot better, and you'll learn how to get those extra 10 minutes of time that you really need. Do you want to go?
Oh, okay. All right, sure. I guess two factors of it. Well, when I first started, I actually had someone tell me that because I was a girl, it'd be really easy for me, and all the guys would write my code for me. So it was kind of it actually kind of pissed me off a lot. So it kind of made me really angry, and so it kind of drove me a little bit to do things. And it's also some of the things I experienced was that. Not just girls. I knew a girl, and I had two friends, a girl and a guy, who both switched out of computer science in my first and second quarters because sometimes there's that one class or that one professor who you can't seem to understand, or it's just that one class that roadblocks you, and then everyone in that class, even like the really experienced people, are roadblocked in that class. So for me, it was kind of building up networks and then kind of like having that support group that you can kind of like have these, you can kind of like build off each other, and then you can definitely ask for help for them, especially with your peers. And also looking for tutoring programs too as well. And be able to kind of tell yourself that, you know, to be able to kind of like understand that it's not like you're a bad student, or it's not like you're completely dumb or stupid or you can't understand something. It's you're learning this, and through that learning process, like they're learning too, you know, through tutoring. And yeah, I mean, the other thing is that you should definitely really talk to your TAs and professors more, because one of the things that people kind of have that block issue is that they don't really want to talk to their professors because they think they might not have a good question, or, you know, they're just like, oh, like I don't have time or something. But they're actually really great resources to talk to. So definitely like go to their office hours and do that.
So it can definitely be intimidating at first getting into computer science, especially in high school. I know a lot of the different like computer science related activities that I saw in high school, like code days and hackathons, and like my school had just started like a coding club. Almost every single person there was a guy, and so I would feel like an outsider. And sometimes, which I feel bad about, I like didn't go for things like code days because I knew that I was going to be the only girl there, and I didn't want to be in the all-boys team, and kind of, I felt like sometimes I would just be left on the side. Kind of a short story about this was when I first got into Stanford, so we have like a Facebook group for this, and one guy posted saying that he had like a startup idea, and he was looking for other students who would be able to help him with like the physics and the computer science and stuff. And I really, really wanted to do it, but when I was looking at the other comments that people were making, they were like, yeah, like I know like listed 20 different programming languages, and they're like, so I can help you with this and this and this, and sometimes I didn't even know the words that they were using. So it made me feel very intimidated. So I was talking about this with my mom, and she was actually the one who convinced me to just try it out and see, and that I would probably actually, you know, be useful and be able to contribute. So I joined, and one of the guys sent me the code and said, okay, you know, I've already written all of the code, so you can just look at it if you want, and then let me know if it looks fine. And when I looked at it, I saw it was in PHP, which is a programming language. I had no idea what PHP was, so I went and did like an online crash course tutorial in PHP in like an hour, and then tried to read his code, and I actually realized that there were bugs and issues and things that I could fix and help contribute to. And so I made like a more streamlined version and sent it back to him, and he was like, wow, you actually made it better. Thanks, so we can use this version instead, and we like scrapped his original version. So I guess what this taught me is two things. Is like one thing, not to turn down any opportunities because you feel like you're like not good enough, or because you feel unconfident about your abilities. And then two, one thing that helped me personally was that when I didn't know how to do something, I just tried to learn it. And I would try to learn more programming languages like Python, PHP, things like that, because I felt like the more knowledge that I had and the more I was able to understand other people who were talking about computer science, the more confident I felt. So I guess those are like my two pieces of advice. And another thing that I would say is to definitely find other girls who are in the same shoes as you, find a support network. So I'm part of the National Center for Women in Information Technology, which was mentioned in the videos at the beginning. And so they have a really great program for high school girls where you can apply to get their aspirations award. And if you get the award, then you join an online Facebook group where there are a bunch of women in high school and college and also past college who can give you advice on internships, jobs, how to, you know, handle issues at school, advice, help you find jobs and internships. So for all of you girls who are in high school right now, I definitely recommend applying for that program.
I actually had two small things to add that just came up. So one thing about the issue of kind of like working in this fairly male-dominated environment was that I was actually in the lab where everyone else was a guy, and we were doing partner projects. And at first, it was kind of like, oh, you're the girl kind of thing. But it was kind of just taking it day by day and kind of like building, hey, you know, I could do this. And then kind of like learning from everyone else. And then after a while, everyone didn't really notice anymore to a certain point. And the second thing is that sometimes it's good, like I'm in the Society of Women Engineers, and sometimes we just do like these trash bag runway shows or something, or we make dresses out of trash bags, and then we do the runway walk. Yeah, or sometimes we just watch Mean Girls together, so it doesn't have to be anything big or something, but it's kind of just like a stress reliever kind of thing, and it just lets us laugh together and kind of like talk fashion or go shopping together or something. Mm-hmm.
So even if you do go into computer science and face some of these challenges, there are always great resources as long as you are proactive in seeking them out. Some of them you can start seeking out now, things to get you, you're already here, you clearly have the support of your parents, so you can get ahead of the curve, even ahead of a lot of the guys you'll meet in your college programs who think they've been programming for years longer than you. You can already have way more knowledge and skill than them because you're getting such a great head start on people. So now I'm going to open it up to questions from you, and so we can get you on the mic. The easiest thing to do is I'm going to stand kind of in the middle rather than run around the room. And if you have a question, you can kind of line up and meet me here, and we have about 15 minutes for audience questions. And introduce yourself if you're asking a question.
We'll have to reduce to 10 minutes.
Hi, my name is Alice Liu. I'm a PM on the Windows Phone team, and I just want to say I am so impressed by you guys as interns and as female representatives of your school, and I think it's just great. My question to you is, what would you say to a girl who's in high school who says she doesn't want to do math and she doesn't want to do sciences in university, but you see her and you see like, oh, there's an opportunity still for her contribution in the computing or in the tech field? What would you tell her?
Is she like, does she just hate computer? Does she hate?
Let's say like academically, it's been discouraging in terms of her performance of science and math.
It, but she just was discouraged.
It's kind of like a chicken and egg problem. Like you do bad in it, therefore you don't like it.
Okay.
So what would you tell someone like that?
Well, I would say ease her into it. She doesn't have to go into a computer science program in a university with 200, 300 people in the first lecture. Mm-hmm. That's scary. And computer programming is so democratized now that she can spend literally 2 weeks or even 2 days of her free time going with you or a peer or a friend or another parent, whomever it might be, to learn a very simple programming language. So build up her confidence in that way. Build up her confidence through these introductory programs so that she has the ability and the personal equipment to go into that big lecture once college hits. So I'd say there is usually just like AP computer science in college, but there's a lot in between. And especially at that age, there's a lot of legroom to experience it other ways. And so I would say definitely try to capitalize on those introductory programs in your free time. Yeah.
I would say find something that she's interested in. Like if she's interested in like arts or something, and if she uses a lot of the programs or something, kind of like talk to her about like that. So it's not just like algorithms, like straight out algorithms, and it's not just straight out like C++ or something, or pointers or something. So it's something that she can see like, oh, hey, like there's like this tool that you can actually, there's like a lot of programs, a lot of tools that she can see like the impact. For instance, if you're into fashion or something, you can see like there's blogs, there's a lot of people go into it via website design or like games, for instance. So I would try to see if there's anything that could bridge that sort of gap.
I definitely agree with the both of them. I think one thing that like I've seen in high school is a lot of people don't like math and science mostly because they think it's like not useful or doesn't have like a practical application in real life. I know in my math class, every class someone would ask like, are we ever going to use this? So I think something that's useful is to maybe show her like a real world application of math and science. something like what Amy was saying, like if she likes fashion. I was at a hackathon recently and someone made a fashion app to help you shop for clothes. So like something like that that combines her interests in a simple way and like shows her that there is a practical application and that like you can use it not just like sit in your room and like do little math problems, but like you can do it for something else.
Cool,
it's helpful.
Thank you.
So my name's Lisa Abdulova. I'm a class of 2011 from Stanford, and it's fantastic to see you guys here. I'm a product marketing manager for Windows, and to tell you guys the truth, it's actually the third time that I watched your documentary for She++, and each time that I watch it, I feel more and more inspired to potentially go and do a master's in CS one day. There's just something about creativity and problem solving that you guys bring out in those stories. It's incredible. So like, thank you for doing that. Yeah. I read this article the other day, and it was the unauthorized biography of Marissa Mayer, also a Stanford grad, who talked about how she was called out in the Stanford Daily, the like newspaper that's published all over on campus, as an icon, because she was the only girl in the upper division classes in the CS department at Stanford. And so that made me curious, what have you been seeing in your classes and for you guys on your teams? How many women are you seeing on your classes and your teams now compared to what you were seeing like 3 years ago?
So it's actually, I read that. She was like called out as the blonde girl.
Yeah,
because
like
the little blonde girl, because she's the only one in her classes. It's really funny. Yeah, so Stanford's been positive. It's been positive positively growing in the past year. But Stanford's a unique case, right? It's not the rest of the world. We're in the valley. And I think actually we're all from California, so probably portray a strong picture. But I've seen a positive trend once the community, I think She++ was very influential in that, in building the conversation and really, really giving a platform to girls to be like, hey, look, we're doing it. Like, hey, look, we can do it, and we're really successful in it. And being like, hey, we're going to talk to the young girls so that more people can be in it as well. And so just really giving women that platform to be able to create the community and that publicity really is necessary, I think. And so that's actually, I'm not trying to do a plug of like, oh, well, this is what we're doing, but that's why we're trying to lead into the She++ Fellows program, because there are people like us at every single school and at many high schools who are probably like the 1 or 2 girls interested in computer science, but they do have the ability to create that platform for other people and to really start propagating change within their respective communities. And so I think that's the best way that we can see more widespread change. On my team, I'm really lucky. I have like a female leadership team. It's awesome. My lead is a female, my general manager is female, and then we have Jensen on top of that, but then we had Julie, and so it was just amazing. I can safely say that the questions that I've had about PMing, about Microsoft, the struggles that I've faced, I feel like I've been able to be more open about them with my managers and mentors. I think they've been nurturing about my growth, and that opportunity to really openly discuss my challenges has been valuable in seeing my growth. And so once again, I'm seeing a little bit of a skewed perspective of the fact that I'm at Stanford and I have a female leadership team, but I can at least say from that perspective, it's been massively, massively positive. But we know that there is obviously open gaps all over the world, but I know it's possible. So it's just a matter of bringing that everywhere else. Yeah.
I think for us, for my focus, it was a lot of retention of engineering majors. So usually I found that there was a lot of interest in computer science, both from female and males. And then when they got there and they took their first college level classes and they got into their upper division classes, and then they kind of felt themselves struggling, because all of these students were A students, and then they slowly got Bs or Cs, for instance. And then so for me, it was a lot of kind of having people you could talk to, especially upperclassmen, who kind of gone through the same issues and who can talk, maybe talk to you about how like you're doing on like that kind of, whether or not it's like maybe that one class that's really getting you down, or whether or not like to tell you maybe it's just that one class versus like, oh, I should just drop out of computer science as a whole. So for me, it's you need to inspire people, and I work in a lot of like outreach events too as well, and then you also need to kind of have that support network for them and kind of like be able to kind of like tell them, like keep them in, and definitely to kind of like also to kind of like give them a lot of opportunities to do, like for instance, talk to students who've done internships, for instance, and ask them, oh, how did you get yours, or how did you get into research, and then kind of like have that kind of like information network for them as well.
So I'd like to thank our panel. Let's all give them a big warm applause. And we're now going to transition to our senior women, so if they could please come forward, and then Anya will be the moderator. We want to be very cognizant of your time and make sure we get you out of here at 6 so you can go home and go to dinner. So we'll have our last panel and then a few closing remarks, and then I know all of our panelists will be available, that if you do want to ask them questions one-on-one when we end, they'll be there. So Anya, you can take it from here.
So I have the big pleasure of talking to really, really amazing Microsoft leaders. I am trying to be technologically savvy, so I have my notes on my phone. And we'll ask some questions, start some conversations. We won't do any of this down the line thing. I would love to hear you guys kind of like go back and forth, share your experiences, and really have that collaborative discussion here today. So first off, maybe now we can do a down the line thing, but tell me a little bit about the synopsis of what brought you here today and what you love most about your work.
I'm Catherine McKinley, and I'm a principal researcher at Microsoft. I was a professor at the University of Texas for 13 years, and before that at the University of Massachusetts. Yes, go talk to your professors in their office hours. That's why they're there, and they love it. So what I like about my job most is it's different every day. I get bored easily, and there's always some new challenge. The kinds of things I'm working on right now is energy efficiency, trying to make those data centers not suck up all the energy in the world, and also give you answers and great experiences. So I'm working on scheduling Bing queries so that they complete faster but take less energy, and designing both hardware systems and software systems for that.
Great.
I have maybe a non-traditional path here, and then I think I've had a traditional path since I've been here. So my name is Erin Chappell. I'm a partner group program manager in the Windows Server and System Center team. And I, in high school, I was actually one of probably those rare women who loved math and science. Like, I just gobbled it up. Like, I was always, those were my favorite classes, and I was in band as well, and I played in the band, I played the clarinet, I played the piano, I did all that other stuff. But there was something about math and science that was just predictable to me, and it was really kind of, it appealed to me that there was a right and a wrong answer to it, and it was, I could learn it and I could go after it. So I actually went into engineering. I was an electrical engineering major in university, and I went into it because I had a cousin who was an acoustical engineer, and I thought she was pretty cool, and I liked math and science, and so what else was I going to do? I was going to be an engineer. And it was interesting because I went to school in Canada, actually, and we have a co-op program. So we would go to work for 4 months and then be in school for 4 months and kind of go on and off. And I went and did a couple internships in electrical engineering. And if you think all those stereotypes about CS are kind of, that electrical engineering, I don't think I talked to anybody. I was in my office doing my own work, and I was like, this is not for me. And so I actually got to do an internship at Microsoft and fell in love with the fact that all of those stereotypes that I had about the software industry were kind of thrown out the window, because to me, it's really about people. At the end of the day, we're working with people to solve hard problems that impact the world. And that's what has kind of kept me here. I was an intern, I came as a program manager, then I was a lead program manager, and now I'm a group program manager, and so I've kind of had a very traditional path since I've been here. But at the end of the day, what I love about my job are the people I get to work with. I work with awesome people, and in some sense, the technology problem is the easy part, right? The issue is, how do we figure out what we're going to build? Like, how do we talk to our customers and really understand what they need? Because you know what? They'll tell you, it's kind of like asking people, do you like ice cream? They're like, yeah, I like ice cream. Like, you go out there, you talk to them, and they're like, yeah, I need that, yeah, I need that, yeah, I need that. And so figuring out what it is that they actually really need, being able to set that strategy, and then get a huge team, right, across the world to actually produce what you say that they should produce, it's a massive challenge. And it's not the technology. Technology is the easy part. It's really about getting people to work. And I work on Windows Server. We have millions of people who use our product. And just impacting those people on a day-to-day basis is the thing that keeps bringing me back every day.
That was awesome. Now I just want ice cream. So my name's Cordy, and I'm an executive producer here at Microsoft, and I came from the polar opposite place of all of you fine people here today. So I did not like math, and I did not like science. I was a creator. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and that is the path that I took. So I took a path of getting a film degree. I went to UCF, and then later on with Full Sail. And it wasn't until early on in my career, so everything that I learned was very analog. You know, it's about lights and cameras and film and how you spin back then we were still splicing things together. There was no such thing as digital compositing. And so it was really early on in my career where I flipped the bit on technology. And I was lucky enough to be working for a wonderful man who was an excellent mentor, who had one of those photographic memories and really believed in the innovation of filmmaking and what would be the future of filmmaking. And we ended up partnering early on with Kodak. And they built the world's first digital compositing system for filmmaking. And it just opened my eyes to all the things that we could do as storytellers. Like, how do I create a fantasy world? How does Lord of the Rings get made? You know, how do we go and create these things that aren't real, that would take model makers years to create and just mere seconds to destroy? How could we do that over and over and over again? And it was through technology that birthed that ability to allow us to be incredible storytellers and creative people. And that's when I learned, you know, technology within itself, very creative field, very innovative field. It is not just numbers and facts. It's the person behind the numbers and facts that's learning those things and how they partner that with their passion. And for mine happened to be filmmaking, and how they partner those two things together to truly create something that can inspire themselves, inspire others. You saw with your team, you know, you guys went off, you're like, we're not filmmakers, but we're going to go make our own documentary. And you know, that's awesome. I bet you use technology to do that. Yeah. So that is kind of, you know, if you would have told me early on in my career that I would have been working for Microsoft, you know, moving through the field of entertainment, I wouldn't have understood what you were saying at the time. But Microsoft is truly leading a lot of wonderful entertainment initiatives, and I have the honor of working in the same area that Katie does, where we like to say that we work on turning science fiction into science fact. So it's just been an amazing ride from, you know, working with wonderful people like Robert Redford and Steven Spielberg and Jeffrey Katzenberg, on into these other people that I now look at with the same eyes, who just, you know, determine that these things will manifest themselves, and we're really not sure how they do. And then just through a lot of really hard work and effort and smart people with these types of backgrounds, we're able to bring things to the forefront for people that can use them eventually, and that's a pretty amazing achievement.
Hi, my name is Shilpa. I'm a test lead on the Skype team. I grew up wanting to be an actress, actually. And and so I did a lot of dramatics and debates and stuff in school. And I have to say, it was, I really liked this Indian actor. And so it was thanks to him that I got into computer science. So I was like, okay, I want to build this website and I want to have his pictures in there. And that's how it all started, literally. My mom was like, oh my God, you can't do this. I was studying home science at that point. So I built this website and it was all this actor, all of there. And that just got me interested. I was like, oh, this works. I'm able to create this website. I wrote a small program and I put my screensaver as his photograph and the whole programming, and then I created another program to every 1 second change his photo on my screensaver. So yes, that's how it started, and I was like, okay, fine, let's try this out. So I somehow got into chemical engineering with my bachelor's, because that's the only seat that I got. Qualified for during my engineering exam. And then I liked it, so I continued. I did my master's in chemical engineering, through which I was also like, okay, I have to do a lot of programming here, and so I took a lot of programming classes there. And I was like, Whenever I used to write any programs, my friends would come to me and say, can you find this bug for me or something? I was always finding other people's bugs in their programs, rather. And so it just clicked to me that, oh, maybe I can try and find issues with code. That could be something that I could make a career out of, because I was pretty good at it. Seems like most of my fellow students were coming to me and saying, hey, this program of mine doesn't seem to work. Do you want to help me fix this or do something with it? And so I applied for a position that opened up when Microsoft acquired this company called Reinventing as a role of a tester, and I qualified. I was like, really? Okay. And that's where my journey began as a tester. I moved into a test lead role. And so what I have really liked about my work, and I agree with Erin there, is definitely the people. I sincerely believe every problem is a people problem. It's not about the technology, it's about the people. Technology, everybody can solve it, but the interaction with the people, how do you get your point across? How do you get them to listen to you? How do you get them to understand you? And not everybody's got the attention span, or not everybody's got the time to listen to you. So you have to make every minute count. And so I would say that has been the biggest motivator for me. My team, the people I work with, my managers who've been supportive of me, they give me a reason every single day to show up to work. The fact that I come to work and I feel valued completely increases my confidence in myself, and I can go like, sure, I can do it. I don't care. I will make this decision. Many a times I know I'm perhaps making the worst decision, but at least I'm confident enough to make it, is how I go with it. It's like, forget it, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I would definitely say it's the people that I love most about my work. Definitely the technologies that we work with here at Microsoft have been very cutting edge. I have been fortunate to be working with technologies that very few in the company have had to see, because they're mostly bleeding edge, as we call it. And so the mystery, the adventure of figuring things out that nobody has ever done before, stumbling through it, and the fact that you're the only one doing it, or there are only very few in there, gives you that adrenaline rush. So that's what I love about.
That's amazing. I love the breadth that we have here today, and I love that we have people from energy to electrical engineering to producing to Indian actors. It's amazing. But now here today we have a panel of technologists, of programmers, of engineers, of people who are very, very influential at Microsoft. So those couple of words, programmer, engineer, computer scientist, technologist, I'm curious to know what you feel the connotation around those words are today, and how has that changed in the past 5 to 10 years? And what do you think that's going to look like moving forward? Anyone take the floor?
I think nerds are cool now, right? I think that's been like one of the big transitions that I've seen.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, nerds are cool. So that's a huge difference. And I think too, just with programmers and technology, when you think about those things, it's I think, you know, we're shedding the stereotype of the, you know, the bad hygiene, the sitting in the corner, the what have you. And we're seeing more people who are actually extroverted entering the industry. And we also see a lot of people who are very socially active in what they're doing, and they're very creative. So I don't associate those things with just, you know, very specific, like you sit in a corner and you solve this problem. They're people. They're people. Yeah. They talk to other people, and they're very creative because they work in groups and they solve problems. So I think it's been a very positive trend. But I know we are here and we're talking about women, and I think that that's really important. And one of the things that I do want to share is, you know, there was something that I read on the network, which was, you know, 85% of the women today either directly purchase or heavily influence the purchase decision around all things purchased in their household. And last year, women purchased over $90 billion in consumer electronics. So if you don't have women participating in all of these wonderful roles, how do we know what the women who are purchasing and influencing and making those decisions in our daily lives want? And so I think it's really critical to have women at the table for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts?
So I presented at one of the DigiGirls conferences that we had or whatnot, and my session title was the top 10 reasons why working in technology is not like Dilbert. Right, and I, you know, it's Scott Adams, I think, who writes Dilbert or whatnot. And I'm like, I really wish that just had never gone into our kind of the lexicon of what we did, because I think it gives us such a bad reputation. And I agree. I think that things have changed significantly, and I really look at just how the world is changing. Right, if you go back and, you know, some of you might not remember, but go back like as far as you can remember, like 5 years, 10 years, 15 if you can get there. We seem to have a very young audience. That might be before some of you were born. But you think about just the technology that you used in your everyday life 5 years ago, and it's very different. Right? You know, I was recently out with my mom. She needed to buy a new cell phone, and I swear hers was an antique. It was like one of those little ones that had buttons on the front. I was like, what is this? It has no touch. Like, where are we going? Like, I've had a touch phone for, you know. But it really has changed. The technology has changed, and it's integrated itself so heavily into how we just live our lives, right? And I agree, if women don't have a seat at that table, then you're going to get solutions that work for half of the population. And particularly, I will tell you, like I do the grocery shopping in my household now. It used to be that I wrote a list and I gave it to my husband, and hopefully he came back with the things that I wanted him to come back with. But now I sit down and I use Amazon Fresh, and I build out my shopping list and I get it delivered to my door. And it's changed the quality of my life, I would say. The fact that I don't have to
mediate between your husband and the grocery store.
Exactly. Tuesday night, I'd want to like buy everything for what I was paying. Like, oh darn, he forgot that. But it has changed the quality of my life, I would say. And I think that there are ways in which we design solutions now, and technology permeates the way that we work in life. And so I really do think, it's a people industry, and it's about us improving the quality of life of whoever your customer is, whether or not it be me as the customer doing my home shopping, or whether or not, my team works on technology that powers the cloud, whether or not it be us providing, the IT administrators the best experience that they can have. So it's changed dramatically.
Great. I'm so glad to say. Here, do you both have anything to add on that?
I wanted to add a quick thing. So, little bit from a cultural background, I grew up in India, and growing up, I think I find that there is a different connotation in the US, but growing up in India, engineer, the word engineer is very awe-inspiring. And that's almost always because of the difficulty associated with the curriculum. And so the fact that you have gone through it and you've become an engineer means that you have so much focus, you have so much dedication, you have so much talent. So that automatically puts people into this high respect category. And growing up, I was always surrounded by people who did very well in society. Coming out of at 20, your pay packages are so huge for an engineer that it was an amazing job to land at that young age with that amount of money and the perks associated with the job, that you automatically gain the respect of others. And it was kind of a pipeline that you get into once you're in that job. You are surrounded by people who do such things and who are aiming for something much higher, and that elevates your level as well. And so life continues is what or rather, all our parents would dream about for all of us. So that way, to me, growing up, I was always like, wow, wanted to be an engineer, want to be an engineer. That is something I want to be. And I honestly hope that, I have 2 daughters, and I really wish and hope that they find it in them to pursue it.
Yeah, I think we can see in even the panelists we had today, a lot of the programmers today, the nerds today, are very forward-thinking. They're very, very excited about the world, and they're really ready to make some big impact. So we talked about it a little bit, and I heard from you why it's important to have girls in this field. So I want to expand upon that a little bit more, really concretely asking, why do you think it's important to have girls entering technology and business in this day and age? And then on top of that, what do you think are the female qualities that, especially in higher level executive levels and leadership roles, do you think women or people are able to contribute to make leadership in teams very, very successful?
So the world has changed a lot. If you look around this room, the different cultures and points of view that you can just see from everybody's faces is amazing. And having more diverse people at the table, like all these studies show that you get better products, you sell more stuff, so it's good business for the get-go. But as a young person in trying to find your way, like, what do I want to do with my life? You know, I like watching Glee, which my son is currently addicted to. And it's about bringing to the table what your interests, your passions, and technology's touching all of it. So if you want to, so for us as a culture, we like, if in my lifetime, we've gone from a pretty closed culture, not accepting of women or minorities in leadership roles, in working outside the home. I'm the sole wage earner. I have a stay-at-home husband now. My mother did not anticipate that career for me or lifestyle, and so and it's working out great. I have 3 boys and a husband of 27 years. So the kinds of life you can live in, and part of that's been driven by technology, because we see more people. We don't just see the people in our little town, we see everybody. We see the whole world. We see the whole world when bad things happen and when good things happen. And those things can connect us as a society to work together better. And as you move through your field, try to think, oh, no, not everybody has to look like me, and I can work with them. That's kind of been one of the most exciting things about this field to me, is especially as a professor, where I had millions of people in my classes, none of whom look like me. Every year they're turning over and they're younger and younger, and that you're training the next leaders of the field, and what are you going to be inspired by, and what skills are you going to bring to the table, and that kind of collective we is, if we can make it bigger and we can make society better by participating and not thinking, oh, because I'm a girl, I shouldn't participate in computer science. No, you should participate. Like, that should be more of a reason to participate, because you're good for whatever you're doing, you're good for it, because there are not that many of you. And you're actually going to make a big difference. So I know that, like, one of my PhD students who hasn't finished yet is here. Just having me as their mentor was, and especially even here at Microsoft, we don't have enough women, and I'm collaborating with several women, and I'll have them say to me, it's just so nice to work with you. And like, okay, I'm nice, but I'm not that nice, right? But it's because they haven't had these more diverse experiences, and when you have them, it's better.
Great.
Sorry for, like, I'm very, like, I love the part of the people part, and just like the arranged marriage, someone you wouldn't be friends with, but they're on your team and you become really good friends with them, and you would never have chosen them. That's like part of the fun of it.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that experience with my mentors and managers this summer. It's been great.
I'm apprehensive to go because we'll be like going down the line. But I want to put out, I think, building on what you were saying, to me it's not women or men, it's diversity. And I had the experience of, I did my master's degree, but I did it in applied behavioral science, so kind of more organizational psychology. And one of the things I was doing there is I got to work with an all-female nonprofit organization. And I have to tell you, being a woman who's grown up in a man's environment, going into a group that was all women, it was like foreign to me. Like, I was like, I don't know how to get anything done here. And it really highlighted to me that neither extreme is what you want, right? They had equally as many problems as we do when we have all male teams. They were just different. Right? And quite frankly, as a woman who tends to be more engineering mind and logic and whatnot, I actually would take the all-male team problems over the all-female team problems.
Just because you're used to it.
Exactly. Probably said that, you know. But I think that there is this thing, it's about that balance, and it's about bringing together diverse perspectives, whether or not it be cultural, whether or not it be of thought process, whether or not it be of gender-based. It's about creating that environment, because that's, and you say, what capabilities of women do kind of help in senior leadership positions. I think women more stereotypically bring listening and empathy and kind of some of those softer skills that are often missing when you have an all-male team. And that's a great addition, that when you don't have it, you miss things. Like, you miss hearing, really truly listening to what the person's point of view is, and bringing that together and being kind of the melting pot in some sense, or the catalyst. And so, again, I want to say, I really firmly don't believe it's about male or female. I believe it's about diversity, and women are an important part of that we need to bring into that mix.
So I totally agree with Erin on that. I think it is. It's the balance. But she did bring up, it's not just a blending, the balance of it. We talked about, cultural and gender balance. But one of the things I want to bring up, especially due to the age audience in the group, is age.
Yes.
If you look at awesome companies that are coming out of the woodworks today that have just like shot to stardom, these are young people. These are young people out of high school. These are young people out of college. And, you guys, there's a group out there, my daughter included, who's of a generation who uses technology in a completely different way than I do. And these are your consumers 10 years down the road. These are your people who are investing in everything that you're trying to think of and create today. So having that balance, too, in age and, like, listening, just because you're young doesn't mean that you don't have important things to say. So keep that in mind.
I completely agree. It is about diversity, and just one thing that came to mind. One of my friends, she works out of the New York office for Microsoft, and so she went to this Apple store. It was just beautiful, aesthetic. Completely made of glass. And so she enters it, and it's like a 2-floor building. And so she's like, okay, let me walk up. There was another lady who was trying to get up to the first floor itself, and she looked at the other one and said, thank God I'm not wearing a skirt. So it was a transparent glass stairway. And so that's one of the things that I can say is like, architecture cannot be male, kind of, right? So things like that. And I've had, was going through some research and found that one of the initial airbag companies, when they validated their airbags, they validated only against the male audience. So that pretty much killed and injured a lot of women and children. Voice recognition software, early on voice recognition software, validated only against male voices, completely when missed with the women audiences there. So things like that. I mean, there is software, there is hardware, every part of our life. There are aspects that women bring to the table that needs to be considered in order to make a product viable to the audience that is there. And that's critical, and that comes from diversity, having people there. So my mind, that's most important. And to answer your question, at least one point in addition to empathy that I find that women leaders may have, again, I don't believe that this is women or male, but I believe at least true leadership should have it, is the concept of awareness, is how being aware of what your team needs, what they want. Leadership is about different folks, different strokes for different folks. You cannot have one style and say, okay, this is what everybody is going to be graded against, or this is one thing that's applicable to everybody. And I find that the more aware you are with the person on your team, the more social connection you have with that person, the better it is, the more in sync you are, and more respect that you gain about it. And at least I feel that women are better equipped. I won't say that's the quality, but I find women to be more equipped with that. So that would be one of the things that I find senior leaders can have.
So before we close up for today, I don't know if any of you guys have questions, but I'd like to open the floor to any questions that we have in the audience. Does anyone raise your hand if you would like to ask these women? Yeah, totally. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll come back here. Oh, there's a mic here? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, completely.
Okay. So there's a lot of young people here. Can you hear me? And that's great. But what advice do you have for someone who's farther down in their career who would want to make a transition, whether it's from like project management to coding or user experience or testing, or somewhere that's more CS focused, where you're already maybe a high performer now, but if you make that transition and it's great to say like, it's okay to learn as you go, but like when your job's on the line, it's not necessarily like that great to learn as you go. So what advice do you have to someone who's farther along to be able to make that transition and still be successful and still, I guess, keep that high bar besides, like just work really hard? What advice would you have?
You have to be willing to take a dip, because to learn new skills, you have to take a dip. And so if you can't take that risk because you're too used to that nice raise that comes with high performer, so that's what I did when I came to Microsoft. I was a high-performing professor. That's why I got hired. But now I'm learning all new skills and how to interact with product teams and have totally new evaluation criteria on me, which impact the products. But I don't even know anybody in any products yet. I just know researchers, and I'm just meeting researchers because I'm in the research building. So there's all these new challenges I'm facing. So I didn't get my top performer ratings that I used to get at the university. Right? So I'm taking the dip, but I'm learning new skills, and I'm telling myself that eventually I get to come back up because my general work ethic and my ability to learn and the fact that it's fun and exciting, and I am meeting product teams and I am trying to impact the data center, that's my top priority. So hopefully that'll happen next year, and so I'll have taken a 2-year dip, but not too bad, and then it'll be back up, right? But you have to say, I got to go down to go up, right?
I think the other thing with that too, if you are considering something, use your network and talk to people who are already in those fields and who are doing those jobs. You know, set up your lunches, set up your coffee times. Everybody likes to do coffee here, and you go and you have your coffee, or you go and you have your lunch. Just from the different groups and the different departments, and try and figure out, you know, what the day in the life is. Is there opportunity for expansion? Is there opportunity for growth? You know, just even talking to that person, is that, you know, and listening to their day in a life and what type of groups they deal with, is that something that's going to be pleasing to you? Because I think at the end, you know, like the dips will be there, but the dips are worth it if you have the passion for the transition or the passion for the thing that you're going into.
Take some classes ahead of time in the area, things that you're rusty on or that you need to know for your new job that you don't know, online class.
So building on that, I had a very creative individual in my team this year. And I was talking to somebody in a different discipline who wanted to move into program management. And I said, oh, well, let me connect you with a guy on my team who I think is good at this. He can kind of help mentor you or whatnot. Well, we were a little under-resourced, and so he actually farmed out a piece of work to that individual who wrote a little spec for our project and sat in on our team meetings. And you know, that was the basis of him then making a transition into program management, because he found out he liked it, and he got a sense of what it really was, and he got some feedback on what it was he was doing. So, you know, if your current manager is supportive of the environment and you can carve off some of that and find someone who can help you by giving you something tangible so that you can actually, because it's different, right? It's what you think on the outside something is versus what you, when you get in and start doing it, it is different, which is why I love internships, because you really get to taste that. But try and figure out how to create a little mini internship or something for yourself. Yeah.
Completely agree.
Thanks.
+2 on that.
Do we have any other questions on the floor? Yes, we can go back there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm an intern in Windows this summer. What got me excited about technology was hearing about those robots that went to Mars, and there were computers out there discovering things. So I wanted to ask all of you, what is the most awesome thing of technology or computers or engineering that you heard about recently, or that you think is really cool and would want to tell everybody about, like, oh, this is why technology is super cool?
What? Oh, go ahead. There you go.
So I think it's really cool that you brought that up. Did you know that Katie used to work?
Can you repeat the question so
So Anna was asking about, you know, what's super awesome in technology right now. You know, like she's talking about how when she got into it, she's thinking about like the robots that they sent to Mars, and that kind of reminded me of Katie's background. She spent some time at NASA, and so she might have some experience with robots and Mars. But one of the things we did with the Connect program here at Microsoft is we actually created an application with the landing of the Mars robot. So we got to go. We had a whole team. And we spent a lot of time with the JPL organization in Pasadena, and just, you know, like, I think I just geeked out on staring at a tire for like 15 minutes, because, like, you know, how do you create a tire that can navigate terrain and Mars, you know, and what is that like, and dealing with the weather elements, and then how it unfolds and how it lands, and building that application. So I think there's a lot of really, really cool stuff like that. But some of the things that I've gotten really excited about, and I'll just use Connect, since we can't talk about a whole bunch of stuff happening currently, but I think Connect really, you know, was a launching platform for innovators and hackers, and just alike researchers and colleges from around the world who built, you know, sign language programs and enabled parents to learn sign language to speak with, you know, their children. I mean, we got to work with all kinds of people from around the world who were looking to get into that technology where you could use your body, and talk about human user interface. You really don't get more human in a user interface than using your entire body to, you know, work and teach something, you know, somewhere, whether you're remote and distance is a factor, or whether you're in the same room. Just having some kind of technology like that where you have depth sensors and the RGB, where you can really create something and take it to a place for education. Or another article that came out with that was the whole thing they were doing in the operation room, where you're cutting down on staph infections and people getting sick while they're having surgery, because it enables surgeons to review stuff on the fly while they're operating without having to deglove and rewash their hands and put back on gloves, where you introduce those types of risks. So those types of things, even though it's created under the blanket of entertainment, the fact that it went so far beyond that to solve things and medically and scientifically and educationally, I think is amazing.
So I want to say just a personal work relationship that I have. So I work with a guy named Steve Blackburn, who was a postdoc in my group, but now he's in Australia. And I Skype him all the time. And it's like he's in the room with me. And yesterday we're trying to solve a research problem, and we're sending the link for this paper that's related to this idea, so we don't have to go to the library anymore. I know, you probably don't even realize this was an issue, but it's like the information that's sitting at my desk. I can be working with someone in Australia who just got up and his kids are running around behind him while he works early in the morning with me, and that all the tools we need, we can almost get at all of them to make this decision about what technology problem, how best to solve this problem we're having, and that we can talk back and forth, and it's just like he's in the room with me. And so we've had a collaboration since 1999 till now, so for 14 years, and so it's been Skype this whole time, or it was the phone technology before, but now that we have Skype, the relationship is so much better, and it lets you do things like you could never have done something like this before. 15 years of collaboration in this way, right?
Great. So I think that's all we have time for today in terms of questions. But I'm sure the panelists can safely say that we'll be here to answer any questions. I really think some very, very important points were made today, whether it be from different backgrounds to skills and diversity to what up-and-coming technology is. I want to thank you all for coming out here today. I hope that moving forward, you'll take action somehow. So whether that be through the Microsoft research platforms of learning how to code really easily, or the programs that they're building to encourage support, or taking the documentary and showing it to your friend, you can do it. You can help out. And I think Rain has some closing words.
Well, thank you very much. Let's give a hand to these great teams. Before I have my closing words, I do have one question for each of the panelists for the room, because as I speak with young women all over the world, and then also a lot of Microsoft employees who come to me from advice and coaching, one of the questions they always ask, to be a senior woman and the amazing work that each one of you do, how do you balance work and life? And do you feel you have good balance? And can you give some words of advice to the people in the room?
Okay, let's go the other way this time.
Okay. I would say the first thing is I'm very fortunate that my husband is very supportive of this. So literally, we 2 days a week he picks up the kids. 2 days a week I pick up the kids, and one day I pick up the kids. Yes, I wish. But yeah, tapping into that support system is important. I sincerely feel with your significant other to say, hey, help me through this. I find that really important. The other thing that really helps me get through my day, because I have to context switch between my life and work, is Post-its. Prioritization. Literally, I go through and say, okay, what is my goal? What is it that I need to accomplish? Clarity in that mind is important. I do that every single day. Say, okay, what is it that I'm trying to get at? Because believe me, 10,000 things come at you every single day and you lose track of it. Once I have that, I really create a set of Post-its for myself, say, okay, these are the things that I need to do. I keep track of it and I roll it over if things don't get done. But that's how at least I have tried to balance my work and life right now.
So for me, it's very important, we talk about technology, and we're all very big in technology, and it's a little. This to me was I think I was saying this to Rain. There's irony because my daughter, who is here with us today, she's very into technology, and so now we set. We have guidelines and rules that we need to set in our house where we are not using technology. That we are using our human time together. And that human time and physical time is just as important as our time with our work, our time with our technology. So it's about establishing those rules and sticking to them, and not doing the, do as I say and not as I do, but hey, everybody does. So we all unplug, don't we?
Can we erase those guidelines for school, because I don't want to deal with those during school.
So we have a time where we set rules where we unplug, and we just, we do the old-fashioned traditional thing where we look at each other and we talk to each other, and we have, maybe awkward silences, or maybe we read together or play board games or whatever it is. But I think that that's just really critical, and oddly, businesses are spinning up around this, right? They now have what they call, I believe it's fantasy vacations, which sounds odd, but it is just this. It's a vacation where you go and you unplug now. So I think that's just very critical, and it's about just making sure that you have that time dedicated, that you are spending physically aware and physically present with those important in your life.
So earlier I talked about how I wish I could have erased Dilbert maybe from that. I really wish I could erase the word work-life balance, because to me it's life balance, right? And I think about my life, and I think about my stickies in sense of what priorities I want, and I figure out how I'm going to fill up my time. And some of that, sometimes it's more weighted to work, and sometimes it's more weighted to stuff outside of work, depending upon what I go through. So I really wish we could, if I was one thing I want you to do going out of here, never use the word work-life balance again. It's life balance. And there are two tactical things that I will encourage you to do around that. One, I work from home every Monday, right? I'm not in the office. I sit at my kitchen table, and I work from home every Monday. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to take the things that require deep thinking and lots of busy work and have a dedicated time to work on it, so I'm not stressed out the rest of the time that I'm not getting those things done. And so really kind of figuring out what works for you in terms of how you get your work done, where you're here, and how you can be the most effective. That would be one. And the other is, don't be afraid to set boundaries and set expectations, right? I am a huge hockey fanatic. Right? My husband and I are Canadian. We split seasons tickets up in Vancouver to the Vancouver Canucks. And I tell people that it's October, hockey season's starting, which means randomly, not randomly because it's on my calendar, but at least once every 2 weeks at 2 o'clock, I'm leaving the office in the afternoon, and I'm driving to Vancouver, and I'm going to go to the game, and I'm going to come back. And I will be a happier person because of it. So you really, and you check the score because you might want to see if they won or lost for the next day, see if I'm in a good mood or not. But you know what? And people on my team are how do you even do, you have a recurring meeting on Tuesdays at 3. I'm like, I'm not going to it. People will figure out how to work around, right? And sometimes I think you don't ask, and you don't set those expectations up front, and you kind of are, opaque in what you're doing. So you can figure it out, and they'll be accommodating, right?
So I'm going to give 2 sets of advice. I'm going to give advice for before you're married and have kids, and then I'm going to give advice for when you're married and you have kids. So before you're married and you have kids, your time is your most important decision. What you spend your time on is preparing you for your whole life. So who you choose for your friends when you hang out with them, how much you drink or don't drink, how much time you spend on work, how healthy you eat, and if you get regular exercise. When I was a young person without responsibilities, it's really important to exercise. Really helps my mental health, and that's something I've done my whole life, other than like right after my children were born and I could barely walk. I always took some time, like some weeks more than others. Right now I'm being pretty good, so I'm like always going to the gym 4 times a week. That does a couple things. It makes you feel better because exercising is good for you and helps your mental health. It's time that's only for me. Like, it's not really helping anybody else, except that I'm not mad at them because I'm in a better mood because I exercise. So there is some external effect, but it is not because I have a paper due in my class. It's not to make my mother happy. It's the thing that I do for me. And you always have to have something every week, several times a week, that you're just doing for you, so you don't resent all the people around you, and you make better choices. Now, once you have a very complicated life, the major decision you make is who you pick for your husband or your wife. And that will determine huge amounts of your life quality, or you'll get divorced from them, and that'll be a horrible experience. So make that choice as wisely as you can. Ask your parents' advice, even though you don't care what they think, because they know you and love you better. And say, what do you think will help me? What kind of person should I be with? And listen to them as you go out looking for that person. And then negotiate with your husband or your wife when you're making these huge transitions. When you have a kid, you have to renegotiate everything. When you have that second kid, you have to renegotiate everything. When we had 3 boys who play hockey, and we had to renegotiate every time, even though I have like a marriage probably many of you won't have with a stay-at-home husband. I married an artist, right? So those, and how I spend my time now is even more important. So there are a bunch of things that I just don't ever do because, like, even though other people enjoy them a lot, I don't enjoy them enough to spend my time on them anymore. Maybe once my kids are all out of the house and I have more time, that I get to choose how I spend it, not in the hockey rink watching my kids play hockey, but you would like my life a lot. I find it challenging. I find it more challenging some days. And then you have to, like, sometimes it's about you, sometimes it's about your husband, sometimes it's about your kids. Great.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. And so, Katie, can you move it to the next slide? So in closing, I have a call to action for everyone in the room. So number 1 is Erin's request, which I think is fantastic. We will no longer call it work-life balance, but life balance. Number 2, for all the students, it was brought up earlier about the aspirations award. And so one of the things that I do want to tell all the high school students is apply. Microsoft Research, we sponsor the Aspirations in Computing Award, and it ends up, you'll receive a plaque for not only yourself, but then it's also in your school. And many times you'll get recognized by the School Board of Education, and it goes into the big wall of big sporting trophies, and then your awesome computer science trophy. Secondly, this is an ask for the students and then also the parents and all the Microsoft employees and interns, is on our research.microsoft.com/diversity. We have a whole bunch of free tools, a whole bunch of amazing lectures and profiles of women in computing, some TED Talk-like researcher talks from our top women in research that we'd love for you to share and utilize and learn. And I think it's really important that a lot of the great work that we do, it's all free. And we would love for lots of people to know about it and for people to take advantage of it.
Another important thing is for the women in the room who may be undergraduate or graduate students, or parents in the room who have a daughter who is in undergraduate or graduate school. We do offer a Microsoft Research Graduate Scholarship to help for that first year of their computer science study, because the research we found is that first and second year is the most difficult. You haven't gotten your research figured out yet, so you may not have the dollars, the grant funding that covers your tuition. And so we cover that, and we also serve as mentors. And lastly, there are amazing internships, postdocs, and visiting researcher opportunities in Microsoft Research, and we're looking for more and more women all the time. So with that, I want to thank everybody for coming today. I want to thank all of our amazing panelists, and if we can give Anya and Katie a big hand, because they're the ones that did the most.